And later we're going to be talking to a Maui resident who shares his unique perspective about what's happening on the island right now. But there are two other cities that caught fire that have unusual similarities to the Maui fires, like Lahaina. Kelowna, British Columbia, and Tenerife in Spain were pursuing smart and intelligent city initiatives driven by AI. These three fires occurred in separate cities, Lahaina, Kelowna, and Tenerife, within a week of each other. Now, here's the interesting part. Kelowna was Canada's first 5G smart city, and Maui aimed to become a smart island like Tenerife. What are the odds? Now, we want to avoid conspiracy theories, but we also demand transparency from our government. What actually happened in Lahaina? Why was the water shut off? Why were children sent home from school? Why were no warnings given? Melted steel from cars next to palm trees that remained standing. We deserve answers, and we're going to discuss the situation in Maui later with another guest. But first, another important situation, the treatment of the January 6 prisoners. Joining us live now, my friend and founder of Condemned USA, Trennis Evans. Trennis, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today, Shemane. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
I was saying, as I saw you just a moment ago before we went live, this is new.
Well, you know, the beard comes back when I intend to be at the Capitol.
So we have a lot to talk about in a short period of time. I want to talk about your experience in the prison. And I want to, you might not be able to see this, but we have photos that have been leaked from a Philadelphia prison exposing the horrific conditions that January 6 prisoners are being subjected to. And these images are showing Ryan Samsel pictured in the closet-like room he's been held in for the past 5 months. And during his 2.5 years in jail, Ryan has been moved around to 17 different facilities. He's been beaten, abused, tortured, and neglected since his arrest in January 2021. Now, Trennis, you know firsthand. Share your story.
I'm aware of the abuses of the January 6 defendants. I'm aware of the repugnant behavior that we've been exposed to as defendants in the jails. The unsanitary conditions, inhumane treatment, inhumane conditions, refusal to offer medical or even refusal to provide prescription drugs that are prescribed as needed for people. Christopher Worrell, who's recently, as they say, flown the coop, has gone on the run. And ahead of his sentencing that recently was coming, the government was suggesting 12 years for him. And he was in Judge Royce C. Lambert's court. Royce Lambert recognized that Wanda Patton and Quincy Booth back in December of 21 had provided much mistreatment, unconstitutional and inhumane treatment, and refused to turn over the medical records, at which time Mr. Worrell's cancer advanced from stage 1 to stage 3. And he's now in a position where he has limited time to live because of the failure to continue to provide his medically necessary doctor-ordered prescriptions and treatment for cancer. When that happened, it definitely shortened Mr. Worrell's lifespan, and now they're wanting 14 years from him in prison. A sentence of even 3 or 4 years for Mr. Worrell would cause probably the end of his life to occur in prison. So he, I think, opted for freedom, which Godspeed Christopher Worrell.
Absolutely. Our prayers are with him and with you. You've been in jail also because you were present at the Capitol on January 6th. What happened?
You know, my experiences in jail don't begin to rival these guys. I think it's, and Shemane, not to ignore your question or to skirt it, but I think so much more important are the stories of people like Ryan Samsel and Jake Lang, Bart Shively. We could go on down the list. So many guys, Dominic Pizzola, and the guys that have been just treated so inhumanely and so unfairly in the jail. If, look, you commit a crime, you go to prison, fine. Most of these people shouldn't be in prison long term. It sure as hell shouldn't have been held pre-trial detention. But that was the work of one judge for the most part. You have to think in this term. 14 judges around this nation Judges charged with everyday duties of offering bond or making bond decisions opted to send men home and say, or women home, and say, listen, you go home, you await your trial, you work on your case, you do whatever, you step out of line, you're going to be in prison pre-trial. And 14 different times, Judge Beryl Howe, the Chief Justice in D.C., overrode 14 different judges around this nation with the exact same information provided and determined that they were ineligible for bond and had them shipped to D.C. to the gulag. One judge did this. Royce Lamberth did a few of them, but more importantly, Judge Beryl Howe set the precedent for January 6th, just like she set the jurisprudence for with the Cressman 6 for a special determination of how these charges should go, and laid groundwork with the prosecutors suggesting that these cases shouldn't be being resolved with simple misdemeanors when the AUSAs brought misdemeanor cases for January 6th before them, which led to the heightened level of charging and overcharging and additional charges, superseding indictments, et cetera, to create this particular situation we now know as the January 6th debacle, that where men and women have spent 940 plus days in jail with no trial.
That's just appalling, despicable. It makes me angry. I know it makes you angry. You have a new lawsuit, you said? Tell us about that.
It's not a new lawsuit. Interestingly enough, Judge Colleen Kohler-Catelli opened herself up by suggesting that Condemned USA cease and desist communications with one Isaac Thomas, who is a defendant that works under our legal advocacy. He is under our umbrella of people that we help. We assist with his fundraising. We assist. I do not give him legal advice. That's not my role. He has an attorney. We found him counsel. That is the role between he and his counsel. But we work on the investigative part. We work to help make sure that Isaac is able to maintain his freedom by being consistent with the wishes of the pretrial officers, et cetera. When we did exactly that and provided that information to the court in a sworn affidavit, i.e. me, under the realm of my organization, Condemned USA, the judge has now ordered a cease and desist order. Well, I have an answer for the judge. I'll be filing that later today. Apparently, this judge is in need of an education on what a legal advocacy is, or possibly she's in need of an education on how she has been very skewed and slanted in her views as it relates to January 6th. And those are my opinions, and I'm fully entitled to have them.
Yep, absolutely. We lost the First Amendment, and it's a shame what's going on in this country. So many people are angry and upset. It's obvious that there's a two-tier government system, and we want to help. Trennis, how can people help you and the other J6 prisoners? Well,
it's very important. Listen, I know that there's been a massive amount of fundraising. A lot of people have given. You've given this thus far to the defense, right? And not to say that that's not a necessary cause. Condemned USA is going on offense. We are going to be filing suits and going after matters. We had a recent win. If you haven't noticed, the appellate court has ordered that the sentences given to misdemeanor defendants are unconstitutional, i.e. illegal sentences. We've been fighting these battles for a very long time, the entirety of this 2 years plus, 2.5 going into a 3-year measure. And what we're suggesting is help us go on the offensive. The offensive that we intend to wage is to hold the D.C. district judges accountable. We intend to work with Congress. We intend to see impeachments. And I have a commitment from Chip Roy in front of his constituents most recently that if we provide him the necessary articles of the necessary information to create the articles of impeachment for Judge Beryl Howe, that he will follow through, and as will the House Judiciary Committee. And we do have that evidence. We can provide enough already. You have unconstitutional sentencing adopted by 9 judges in these United States. Even the appellate court in D.C. wouldn't uphold them. In addition to that, you have the bond applications and bond hearings that I spoke of earlier. Not to mention, all along the way on the record, these judges have chosen, willfully absorbed what they can recognize as judicial notice, but it came from mostly the Select Committee. The January 6th Select Committee, obviously now the 118th Congress, has recognized that the Select Committee has destroyed evidence, hidden evidence. They didn't have meaningful cross-examinations. Nothing that they did was consistent with the way that a committee would operate. And that is how we ended up in this place to now, where this is now metastasized into a situation where we go after President Trump. This insanity must stop, and the only way we're going to stop it is to become offensive and I mean this in the courts and in Congress. So you can go to our website, go to condemnedusa.com, check out the website, look what we're doing, become a monthly subscriber, a donor, keep up to date with the information that's happening to the prisoners, the abuses, the lawsuits, the legal, and the efforts that we're making whole right now, and intend to continue to file. I am working on this day and night. We have a great team of lawyers working on it, Shemane, and we intend to continue this battle. But help us go on offense. The time is now. Drop the shield. It's time to swing the sword, America. And I mean this in the sense of the courts and in our congressional processes.
Well, Trennis, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and being with you on this journey. One thing I really love about you is you're always so positive, even though you are in this abhorrent situation that is just really despicable, and it's such a sad moment in history for us. But thank you for being positive. Thank you for trying to continue to help other people who are going through the same situation as you are January 6th.
Shemane, thank you so much for saying so. And I do this as I return this weekend yet again to a room that I can reach out and touch the walls in solitary confinement for the weekends.
Ted just came in. This is Trennis. We got 20 seconds left. So
I just want to say hello, that I love you. Stand strong. Our prayers are with you 24/7 nonstop.
Hey,
God
Ted,
bless
thanks
you,
so
Trennis.
much. I was just talking to Laura about you guys. She said she's sick, but love you guys so much. Thanks for all you do. Keep fighting. You're an inspiration, both of you, for what you do for America. Thank you.
And back at you, my friend. Godspeed.
Godspeed. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Hey friends, have you ever wondered why meat at the grocery store is always bright red? Well, that's because it's treated with carbon monoxide to prevent oxidation, and there's some other chemicals and fungicides in there too. Yuck. But maybe you want to try the Gates lab-grown meat. Are you kidding me?
If you want real food from a real local farm without hormones, antibiotics, or mRNA, you gotta get this beef. Ted and I love it. Go to switchtoamericawithshemane.com. And one of my team members is standing by, ready to help you get this delivered right to your door. We love these steaks, and you will too. Go to switchtoamericawithshemane.com.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. You may have noticed that I acquired a co-host.
Yes, indeed. And I, what's the name of that sponsor with the great steaks?
Switch to America. We just got a new box today.
I switched to America with Shemane. By the way, Shemane, you look so beautiful. And everybody, I want you to notice that my name is Ted Nugent, and I'm her husband.
Yes.
So you have
notice that.
You have to love me. Anyhow, hello, everybody. I'm proud to be here. I'm extra cocky today because I just wrapped up the greatest, most fire-breathing, ferocious, irreverent, fun rhythm and blues rock and roll tour in the history of noise. Ted Nugent, Adios, Mofo 23, the greatest rock out in the history of mankind and animal kind. So thank you, everybody, for the incredible fire and support. I love real music lovers madly.
Well, you came in because our next guest, she's a former Secret Service agent and author of The Protector. Mary Beth Janke joins Ted and I live now. Mary Beth, welcome.
Hey, Shemane and Ted, what's going on?
And I got to tell everybody, you got to get this book. It's called The Protector, and real Americans want to know what goes inside a warrior's mindset, especially that has ascended to the position of Secret Service. So, Mary Beth, we love you and your husband, Mike, by the way.
We do.
Yeah, well, I love him a lot, too. So he's waiting for you guys to hunt together, Ted.
Yes, we need to do that. Now, Mary Beth, you've been on secret missions in Haiti, Colombia, and all over the world, and you actually spent time on an anti-terrorism program after 9/11.
Wow.
What can you tell us about that?
Boy, that's an inside information everybody would like to hear.
Yeah, so I had actually left the field and went back and got my master's in forensic psychology. But then less than 2 years later, 9/11 happened. And making a very long story short, I ended up, my patriotic duty was coming back into the field as an instructor under what's called, it was a program under our U.S. State Department. It was the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, and specifically within that program, the VIP Protection Program. So we trained what we called friendly foreign nationals that were vetted by the U.S. So they were all foreign from different countries, starting with Bangladesh in October of 01, right, in 1 month after 9/11. And we taught them what I would call the art of VIP protection, the same things I learned as a Secret Service agent, but in a condensed 3-week course.
Boy, I want to take a course from you. Can you do that online too? Or maybe you'll just have to come to Texas and show us.
No, you got to drive, you got to shoot, you got to do defensive tactics, you got to do everything physical, because you sit in the classroom for a little bit of theory, but then you get out and you practice.
It's about level of awareness. It's about a warrior spirit. It's about fire breathing. So a salute to you and all the warriors of military and law enforcement, especially those, in fact, only those who adhere to their sacred oath to the sacred Constitution. A big salute to you, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
So what's it like being a woman in a male-dominated field?
I chose it, right? And that's where it gets sticky sometimes. Some people, I mean, Shemane, I know you know this because you're also a warrioress. You make a choice. So it's not like I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're being so mean. Like, what did you expect? I was going into law enforcement, and where at the time in my agency, the Secret Service, women were only 9%. And then when I went into the private sector, women were even fewer. So, that was a choice I made every day. So, yeah, there were some downsides, but there were a lot of upsides. I think some of the downsides were, being often the only female on a team. It can get lonely. Like, who can you confide in, but mostly, with the exception of Haiti, I was in countries that even though they were pretty high threat, I was able to be part of the community and make friends and have a decent life.
You know, Mary Beth, you are a warrior. I mean, you chose it because it was a choice. It's a hardcore choice, and it's not a choice for everybody. You have to be a select spirit mentality, a fighter, a fire breather, we call them in the law enforcement and military, real law enforcement and a real military. How hurtful, how embarrassing is it that now so many government agencies, so many government bureaucracies, in fact, the whole crazy world out there, will hire someone because of gender and color instead of qualifications. You chose it because you wanted to fight. What about hiring somebody just because of their color and their gender? Is that offensive or what?
It's very offensive. And I've had arguments with people, but then when they'll say, you have to be pro-woman, and I'm like, I'm pro-woman. Obviously, I'm pro-woman, but I don't want to, like you're saying, I don't want to be given something because I'm a woman. I want to be given something because I deserve it. And I've fought for it. And when I think about training in the Secret Service, yes, I felt like I was constantly proving myself, but that was me probably being hard on me that it really made me tougher. It made me smarter. It made me more physically fit. I mean, listen, I'm 58. I just, got out of the gym and I'm trying to kick my butt. And I got to tell you, Shemane, because I look at your Instagram posts, I'm doing something different every month this year to build and test my own resilience. And my next month is devoted to you, which is, I saw this Instagram post of yours where you started to do double workouts every so often.
Yeah, to try and get back in shape. And it's so much easier to stay in shape and maintain. And I have a targeted weight where I won't let myself go over. I literally stay within 4 or 5 pounds. If I go over, I'm back to 2-a-days. I eat salads. Yeah. I do whatever I can. Eat a lot of steaks. Switch to America with Shemane. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And I know it's different when you're older. I'm constantly telling Ted, oh, my back, and he's like, you're 61.
If you want to have a real challenging workout, just watch me try to put my pants on in the morning. Now, talking about a challenge, but I improvise, adapt, and overcome. But I got to tell you, I just wrapped up at 75 years of age. I just wrapped up the most intense, high energy, outrageous, dare I say, athletic rhythm and blues rock and roll tour of my life. So it is about conscientious decisions. And I think that every ailment in America today, around the world, is because of foolish, irresponsible, dare I say, sheep-like choices instead of taking care of your sacred temple. So a big salute to you. Yes. And obviously a big salute to Shemane, because this is proof that it's, can I say you're 61?
61.
61, and she kick ass on any college cheerleader. I promise you. I know these people.
Ted, question. Now that you are retired, which is a relative statement, how are you going to keep in shape? Because you kick ass on the stage.
I am so active every day. I mean, I run with the dogs. I fill feeders. I'm picking up 50-pound bags of feed and corn and red chain pellets. Every day I don't go to the gym. Like I said the other night, 111 degrees in Oklahoma, and I was on stage for 2 hours. And if the 25-year-old Ted Nugent showed up, I would have kicked his ass in the puddle of sweat that I created. I'm motivated. I'm driven. I thank God every day that he gave me another day, and I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. And by the way, what you represent, Mary Beth, and what Shemane represents, what I represent, is contagious. So let's keep doing it. People are starting to realize this is a gift today. How are you going to thank God for it? You have to be the best that you can be. That's how I keep motivated.
Well said.
And honor the gifts that you've been given.
Yep. Now, there's so much tragedy going on in the world today. How do you turn obstacles into opportunities, Mary Beth?
Yeah, that's easy, or I should say simple, but not easy. And I do this. I work with my clients all the time on this because I practice what I preach. It's actually one of the exercises I do in one of my resilience seminars is I turn opportunity, into pick something you don't like to do, turn it into an opportunity. I give this example of when I was doing hot yoga, and there were a lot of poses that I didn't like to do, or 2 in particular. And so as we near them, my whole yoga practice started to shift because I was like, oh, I hate these poses. And I was like, why don't you shift that? Like, this is what you tell your clients to do. Why don't you reframe that? And I started saying to myself, wow, I'm really fortunate that I can do these. And at first I was like, is this going to work? And then it did. Like, I didn't even think about the pose after like 3 or 4 times. And I mean, how lucky am I? 1, that I can afford to go. 2, that my body allows me to do those poses. And 3, like you said, Shemane, like I don't walk out of there like that I need crutches. So I continue to look at things and I reframe constantly. Like, everybody has negative thoughts. They're natural. For some people, they come more often than for others. We need to stop them in their tracks and reframe them, because they don't do us any good. They hack at our resilience. They can lead to depression, to anxiety, to a lot of negatives. So understand that negative thoughts are totally natural. I was just having this conversation with a client yesterday. It's completely natural. Just stop them. Like, in your head, go, God, what am I doing? Why am I being so self-critical? This doesn't help anybody. You know, it's
Mary
okay.
Beth, do you get this? Do you deliver this spiritual motivation, this physics of spirituality in your book? And again, I recommend everybody get her book. It's called The Protector. And I think we'll get way more than just inside details on Secret Service and being a warrior. Yeah. Will they get this kind of direction from your book, The Protector?
I mean, it doesn't come out bluntly, Ted, but it's in a lot of the lessons. Like, when I lost my job with the Secret Service 13 months after I started, which, you know, knocked me on my ass. Let's be honest. It was my dream job. But you know, by the time I got the final decision, because I did fight the decision, when I got the final decision, which was made by the director at the time, I was already working a gig in Peru. So I didn't sit on my butt, curl into a ball and say, why me? It was just like, okay, I got an attorney, but I've got a life to lead. So I went into the field of private executive protection and investigations, and I just kind of flip-flop on different missions.
Well, we love it. We love you. Thank you so much for being here, Mary Beth. God bless.
And God bless Mike. Give him a big hug for me.
I will. I will.
We'll be right back.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this.
outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. You know, most of us think that if we eat salads, we're going to be healthy. We take our vitamins, we exercise, we're going to be healthy. But it's actually about the vegetables that you're eating and where they come from. Ted and I found Field of Greens made right here in Texas. And we put a scoop in our water bottles and sip it throughout the day. Field of Greens is made from whole fruits and vegetables, not a watered down version. And it tastes great, which is the most important thing. Field of Greens supports your heart, liver, and kidney function. It fortifies your immune system and metabolism too. Go to fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code FREEDOM to get 15% off your first order and then another 10% off when you subscribe. I drink this every single day, and like I said, it tastes great. So we've got still this problem in Maui, this devastating situation in Maui that is looking more grave by the day. 850 people are still missing. And for those left standing, it's a living nightmare. But through it all, locals are working together to meet any needs that they can, and the Vulnerable People Project is one such group helping out. The founder of that project, Jason Jones, joins us live now for more. Jason, welcome.
Shemane, great to see you.
Good to see you too. So what are you seeing right now in Maui?
Shemane, you really can't put it into words. My organization, which I founded in Hawaii over 20 years ago, the Vulnerable People Project, I founded it to serve vulnerable communities facing ethnic cleansing, genocide, and trapped in war. And so just in the past several months, I've been in the Middle East, I've been to Ukraine, and in my career, I've been into some of the worst war zones on earth. Iraq as it was being liberated from ISIS, Sudan during the genocide. And again, I was just in Ukraine, walking through cities devastated by Russia. I have never seen anything in my life like Lahaina. The only thing I can compare it to is what Dresden or Tokyo looked like after the fire bombings. It looked as if a tactical nuclear weapon has gone off. And that the media has been really downplaying the catastrophe is unbelievable to me. I really felt sorry for the tourists who arrived in Maui in those first couple of days, completely unaware of what had happened, and they were snorkeling where bodies were floating. This is a 9/11-like tragedy. The population of Lahaina is 13,000. There's approximately, the FBI is saying 1,200 missing, so the number's between 850 and 1,200 missing. There's about 1,100 people a year that die in Maui County on an average year of all causes. So we're looking at, in a matter of hours, Maui lost about as many people as they lose in an average year to all causes. And because the public schools were sent home because of wind advisories, tragically, everyone fears that these are going to be disproportionately children. This is a 9/11-like catastrophe. To say that there are 850 people missing in Lahaina, that's equivalent to saying after 9/11, imagine if after 9/11, there were 800,000 missing New Yorkers. That's what Lahaina losing 1,100 people looks like. It's the equivalent of New York losing almost 1 million people. And then the media calling this a brush fire.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
When I first heard that the children were sent home from school and there were no warning, it just broke. I don't want to talk about it now because I'll start getting all teary because I can't even fathom. This is what President Biden should have said. I can't even fathom what you are going through right now. I can't even fathom thinking about those children being incinerated and they were alone, not with their families. It just breaks our hearts, Jason. And I'm so glad that you came on to talk about it. I'm glad I reached out to you. Glad you said yes. But what are you hearing now? There's some breaking news. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I really had horse blinders on very early on. Our mission at the Vulnerable People Project was to care for the living, bury the dead, and keep Lahaina local to protect them from the vultures that are descending, trying to steal their land in the midst of this catastrophe. But, as I'm working, we've chartered planes. We've been running boats back and forth, doing bucket brigades with boats back and forth to the islands, and then using jet skis to unload the boats to the beach, where we had bucket brigades taking people from the beach to the trucks. But you're hearing a lot of rumors, and I didn't even want to think about them. I just wanted to stay focused on caring for the living and burying the dead. But one of the rumors I found hardest to believe that has now been confirmed by The Hill, but first broken by Alex Jones and Steve Bannon and right here on Real America's Voice, is that the police were turning people around. This has now turned out to be, this is true. And my heart breaks for these police officers because they're Hawaiians, they're Kama'aina. They must have been just following orders and doing what they were told. And I don't want to be in their shoes right now. I can't even imagine how they feel. But to think that people survived. An elderly gentleman was interviewed on a Maui news platform that just broke, and I think he was 94 years old. He said he just ignored the police and kept going. But those who complied, and this is a metaphor, folks, do not comply when you know it's stupid. Do not comply when you know it's against your interest and it's illegal. And this elderly gentleman didn't comply. People who complied, tragically, I'm sure many of them, if not most of them, died. So this has turned out to be true. What we also know is that Hawaiian Electric is the majority owned, or they're not majority owned, but their largest owner is BlackRock. I believe they own about 8% of the company. Hawaiian Electric did not bury the lines. Those lines should have been buried, but because of the green agenda, they weren't going to, quote, waste money on evil energy. They wanted to use that money to invest in green energy instead of burying those lines on a dry part of the island. It's dry because of the reckless development over the past century. So you have power lines above ground. Shemane, when you're in a neighborhood that the city and county is responsive and thoughtful to, when the power lines are buried. When you drive through a community and the power lines aren't buried, the city and county officials don't really care about these people. So you see a lot of footage where their resorts are and everything's green. Well, those power lines were buried. Where the wealthy homes are, those power lines were buried. Where there's desolation and devastation, those power lines were above ground. Also, the environmentalists don't let us do breaks. They talk about, and they're using this to push the climate change agenda, when the climate change agenda is what caused these catastrophes. In the past 20 years, we've seen a dramatic decrease in forest fires, but we've seen a dramatic rise in the human impact, the toll on human beings. It's not forest fires that are having this impact on life, it's ideology. So we have BlackRock and Hawaiian Electric, and then a government official who refused to allow water to be used when we needed water, when the people of Lahaina needed water. We need an investigation. This needs to be done. If the city and county aren't going to do it, we need documentarians and we need writers to do it. And while they're doing that, here at the Vulnerable People Project, we're going to continue to care for the living. We're really committed to assisting every family with the support they need to bury their loved ones, give them a proper memorial, a proper burial. And we are committed to keeping Lahaina local, keeping Lahaina for the Hawaiians and for the Kama'aina, those communities that were knit together over 100 years, the Filipinos and Portuguese and Okinawans and Japanese, Chinese, everyone who was, and Hawaiians, all the Kama'aina and the Hawaiian and the Kama'aina have intermarried, and it's one big family. We need to keep Lahaina for that family. We have an obligation to do this. We have a duty to do this.
Is there it doesn't even make sense for me to ask this question, but what would be the reason for the police chief to turn people away?
Yeah, I for the life of me, I don't know. They didn't turn on the sirens. They said they didn't want to turn on the sirens because they were afraid people would go uphill. Like they were so dumb that they would have left their house and said, I guess I need to run into that wall of flames because the sirens went off. It's so disrespectful. Listen, and if I was a Native Hawaiian right now, I'd be wondering why we're a part of the United States of America when the president of the United States said out loud, no comment, when he was first asked about this catastrophe. Shemane, think about the outcry after Katrina. Do you think if Trump was president and this catastrophe happened, that this story wouldn't be the biggest story in America? Yes, of course it would. And they would saddle Trump with it. But this happens in the Biden presidency. This happens because of the Biden green agenda. This is what you get when you have politicians who are thinking about ideology and not thinking about the interests of their constituents. This is what you get. And tragically, it appears that the stewards, the elected officials who are responsible for the people of Lahaina are thinking about ideology, and they're not thinking about the people of Lahaina. We have a governor, Josh Green, who says, well, I will protect you from outside speculators. The state of Hawaii will buy all your land. What? Come again? Say that again?
Did you not? Now it's all making sense what's going on, right?
I mean, yeah.
There's a despicable thought that somebody did this intentionally. They didn't send out the warning. They didn't bury the lines. They turned off the water. They sent people back. It's not adding up, Jason. And we, as America, we recognize Hawaii as America. We want to help. How can people help?
Well, we've set up a campaign, hopeforhawaii.com, hopeforhawaii.com. 100% of your donation goes to serve the people of Lahaina. You saw the bucket brigade you showed earlier, where we're bringing in boats, we're bringing in planes. I'm on Oahu today, loading up charter planes. We brought in a pop-up school. We've partnered with a wonderful Hawaiian organization called Epic Ministries. And they've been a great partner for us on this. And where we really need people's help is, and it's not the easiest thing to ask people for, but I think this is very important. We need to help them bury the dead. These are Hawaii has the highest cost of living, the lowest wages. The starter home in Hawaii cost $1 million. And so my organization, committing to help the families in this way, is going to take that burden off their shoulders so they can get about the business of caring for their loved ones and for protecting Lahaina, keeping Lahaina local.
Jason, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this.
outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Do you really know what's in your water? Maybe just a little arsenic or some pharmaceutical drugs, mRNA, and VOCs, volatile organic compounds. When we drink out of plastic, the chemicals in the plastic bottles actually leach into the water. So what can you do? We found a system called Sentry H2O, Sentry Wellness System, that removes harmful chemicals and toxins and enriches water with essential nutrients. It's much healthier and cheaper than buying plastic water. Check out Sentry H2O and use the promo code HEALTHY10 for a discount. That's Sentry H2O, HEALTHY10 for a discount. Now, let's get back to Maui. Is there something more sinister going on? Some people think so, and we've talked about that on this show. Here with his take is filmmaker and activist Matt Lamon. Matt, welcome.
Hi, Shemane. Thanks so much for having me, especially on this topic.
So what do you know? The floor is yours. Go for it.
So thanks. So I'm working on a sequel to my film Frankenskies, which talks about weather engineering. And in Frankenskies 2, Climate Chains, the whole story is this Agenda 2030, pushing people into smart cities, and the agenda on how to get people to do that, to get pushed into the 15-minute cities. And in Maui, what seems to have happened, and we can talk about it after I just lay it all out there. What looks to have happened is this: engineered winds, geoengineered windstorms, okay, like by means of chemtrails and HARP technology. Engineered winds hit just Maui. No hurricane came through and skipped the Big Island, because that never has happened before. So an engineered windstorm targeted just Maui, and the winds were going away from the coast, which traditionally, the winds would be going from the ocean unless some crazy hurricane was coming. So that's why they said that. And then fires were lit in multiple places on the ground. So there's a lot of debate on how the fires were lit. We have lightning that can be precipitated, and that's talked about in my movie, Frankenskies, the first one. If you haven't seen it, frankenskies.com, very important film, and actualactivists.com, where you can find out more information about all this. And so fires were lit on the ground in conjunction with planned windstorms, so arsons on the ground, or maybe planned lightning in multiple places, to target especially Lahaina, which is like one of the most beautiful places in the world and top real estate in the world. And so as the winds and fires approached the town, the water was not on for the hydrants. The power was not shut off. And this is very important. The power was not shut off. And this is very typical now in these abnormal fires, because they need the power to be on so these smart meters can surge. They have a smart meter surging issue. And I think this is how the fires are getting so hot, and things that are metal are melting, like cars and whatnot. And in this instance, the fires got so hot with the surging smart meters that the people were caught off guard. People were caught in their cars, and the body count was so high that at first when they came out with it, they had to say that it was low because they didn't want the press to be aware and the people to really know the truth behind the body count, because it's going to be high, and there's going to be questions asked. So the initial report, 36 people dead. That's what the general public, thinks. And then when it's revised slowly, people won't ask questions, but people aren't being let in to not see the forensics things. And lastly, really quick, so I have a really big followership online on Facebook, Matt Landman. Please find me in social media or anywhere you want. I'm everywhere. So there is infrared designators on smart meters. I've had military people contact me and send me videos with their military-grade infrared goggles, and each smart meter has its own infrared, like kind of war type, invisible to the naked eye, designator that you could surge a certain home and not another home. So these surges come from the smart meter, and from the main line, the electricity is pulled, goes through the smart meter, goes into the home, and you have a really, really hot electrical fire. So the smart meters, generally, they conduct microwaves from each other and to cell towers. So it's just these microwaves getting turned up, and maybe with latent chemtrails, it's like putting aluminum in the microwave and turning it on. Thank you.
And to think that, I mean, there are too many questions that we have. I talked at the beginning of the show. There's Kelowna and British Columbia and also Tenerife that we're all trying to become smart cities, which is not smart, it's dumb. But the same thing happened with those. It's like the world is imploding right now.
Well, there's the New World Order agenda, and it happens in waves. And the biggest agenda right now is convincing the world through fear, has to be through fear, that we need 15-minute cities and climate change lockdowns of sorts. And so people are, through the media twist, of course, they're blaming the fires and the death count and all this fear stuff on global warming, of course. They're not saying that the winds are geoengineered. They're not saying that chemtrails, which have been laden out for now 20, 30 years ongoing, that the aluminum, barium, and that this is patented fire accelerants. So we've got these patented fire accelerants laid on our trees. We've got arsons and lightning storms that are geoengineered lightning storms. We've got engineered winds. We've got arsons on the ground. All this is a big conspiracy, and the headline just says forest fires, right? Took out a city.
Yeah.
They don't tell the real story at all.
No. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody go to frankenskies.com and also get your gear at Spiro Gear, SPERO, spirogear.com, and then also actualactivist.com. Matt Landman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to doing it again.
Sounds good. Okay, it's time to hear from you.
Hey friends, do you have topics you'd like me to cover? How about special guests you'd like to see on my show? I want to hear from you, so send me an email at shemane.chat@gmail.com. Let's make a difference together.
And this is from Gary B. Just watched your program on Real America's Voice. You found your calling. You almost make me want to run for office, but I am too old, and I'm caring for my 92-year-old mother. But I'm setting my DVR to record your program so I won't miss one. God bless you and your family. Well, thank you so much, Gary B. That's awfully kind of you. And from Chris D. Thank you, my sister in Christ, for encouraging me. Armor up, Ephesians 6, and stand firm. The battle is won. We are living in end times. Christ is returning soon. I look forward to meeting you. I know I will, as we spend eternity worshiping our eternal God together. Well, thank you so much, Chris D. We've got another one from Neil R. I love watching the shows that you and Ted have on Real America's Voice. Whoever thought that we would need shows that promote God, patriotism, and conservatism? I'm glad there are. May God continue to bless this nation and lead us forward in his glory. If you have topics you'd like me to cover, or if you'd like to leave a comment about one of the guests today, send me an email at shemane.chat@gmail.com. Now, guys, this has been so heavy today, and it seems like every time I do these shows, Faith and Freedom, here on Real America's Voice. So I've made it my mission to always make you smile at the end. Take a look. It's the eye contact. It made me smile. Maybe we should change the title too. Let's make Shemane smile. I want to tell you about my book, Killer House. If you haven't gotten it already, check it out. It's available on Amazon. And the day that it launched, it was #1 in 2 different categories. Now, I'm not trying to sell books. Honestly, it's great and all. I'm not trying to not sell books. But what's most important is that I am educating you about the devastating effects of toxic mold. You might be taking medication that you don't need to take for allergies, for sinus problems, for fibromyalgia, and even cancer. check out my book, Killer House. It's still in a top category on Amazon.com. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I love the comments. I love the emails. Mark your calendar, please. Share this show because it's the only way that we get out. Nobody's watching mainstream media anymore, right? You're watching Real America's Voice, and we love it, and we're so proud. I'll be here every week. I hope you will too. Share this show, and you could watch it live with me here on Real America's Voice or rumble/realamericasvoice.com. God bless. Esther 4:14. You were made for such a time as this.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this.